I've loved games my whole life, and video games for me are they have everything. So you've got art, you've got sound, you've got connection with characters because you're a player in the story as well, and they've got challenge, and the challenge was the big thing for me that hooked me into video games. I remember reading I had a bit of a fantasy phase, and I read a bunch of fantasy books really hardcore for a year, but only ones where you had to roll the dice while you're reading, so they were almost like choose your own adventures, but you're rolling dice, and so I just love the challenge involved in that. And when games came along into my life,
and the risk is a big part of it.
Yeah, because it can be over.
Much higher,
absolutely. Yeah. And then when you're playing a character in a game, I always go to like BioWare's stuff when I think of science fiction, because they have a lot of that choice consequence stuff in their games. So you're making decisions for characters, and then that feels like you're carving your way through that story, and that makes you really close and connected to the character you're playing, especially if you get to build them as well. And I like building crazy looking characters, and I get a lot of humor and a lot of joy out of watching them interact in cutscenes with people. And once again, that's different to everyone else's, so the voice acting's the same, the dialogue is the same, but because I'm making all these different personal choices, it's like, this is my game, it's like, have you played this game? You haven't played the way I played it, and I get a lot of pleasure out of that.
Yeah, I think gaming was a natural evolution for me in terms of loving fantasy and loving that idea of escapism, being able to kind of then be more interactive in that world was really exciting. So the first game I actually played was literally the next step up from reading, was being in a multi-user dungeon or a MUD, which was, I think they were really popular in the 80s, and there's still heaps of them around, but there are no graphics, it's entirely text-based. And it's kind of like an online version of Dungeons & Dragons that everyone's playing. But everyone in those games, you could tell they were a big reader, because they wrote so beautifully and with such, beautiful description. You have to kind of describe everything you're doing, whether you're like looking off into the distance and tucking your hair behind your ear or sighing heavily as you say this, and you write out all of these actions. It was beautiful. And then when I kind of wanted to move on to something a bit more visual, I went into World of Warcraft and things like that, but that really kind of wasn't fulfilling in the way that I was looking for. So when games like, BioWare games that have that kind of strong narrative focus, whereas Bajo said you're playing a role in choosing dialogue options that will affect the world around you, that was when it became really exciting, and how, I guess, video games in a narrative sense were so wonderful to play. You
really do fall in love with the characters in those games too, right?
Totally.
The number of times I've cried in a game in the last 4 or 5 years because I've just loved this particular character, and either I've made some choice or the way the story has played out, I've had to make a decision like, do they die or do I try and save them, but then all these other people die? Like, those kind of choices have real impact. I was playing Old Republic recently, the expansion for the Star Wars MMO, and even in that, this is quite an old game now, and the cutscenes are quite simple. They kind of look like the Telltale games, very simple animations and that sort of thing, but they throw these decisions at you that are really heartfelt and sad and hardcore. And luckily I'm playing a Sith Inquisitor, so my main goal is just to kill everyone, because I'm evil, so it's a bit easy in that way, but still, they're tough decisions.
Yeah, I'm very altruistic. When I play through games like that, I want everyone to be happy, and I want everything to work out well, and I want to be the hero, and I want everyone to love me. So when I was playing Mass Effect 3, I made a decision that inadvertently resulted in the death of the entire Quarian race. And I was so devastated. Like, I remember throwing the controller down, and I had to walk away and take some breaths. And it was a good 30 minutes before I could go back to that game, because the emotional impact of that decision. And you can't go back.
No. The best ones where there's no save files.
There's no save. I can't replay that section. It was just it was done. And I felt so responsible for those people. And I had Tally there, and she was just like, "How could you do this?" And it was gut-wrenching. And the fact that a game can do that, I think, is really incredible.
Yeah, exciting times. Imagine what they'll do in 10 years from now, or 20 years, or 50 years, or 100 years.